Hello, Miriam. I am so glad to have you here today. And in our pre session, whatever this is, our you mentioned the last thing you mentioned is the question I want to start with. You
Ooh,
mentioned
uh-oh.
no, you mentioned you're curious,
Mm,
and I offer the invitation to you at this point. Where is your curiosity right now in
mm.
this moment?
It's an interesting one. So I did two things that are currently happening, no, three things in my professional life um, that make me curious. One is we just opened the new year at the community that I'm curating and building, never done before. And we went through difficult times last year
Mhm.
and had to recenter around our why, our purpose, our expectations, and did a lot of work between the years. And we kicked it off this week. And it felt so refreshing and so energizing, enthusiastic that I'm very curious where this will go. Because as you
Mhm.
know, facilitating facilitators is like herding cats or squirrels.
Yes, indeed.
So, with all the plans we have and all the
Mhm.
enthusiasm, it might lead into a completely different direction. And this time next week, I will be in Australia. No, I might actually still be in a plane flying to Australia, where I will spend 6 weeks. So I'm curious what will come up, curious about all the adventures of
Hmm.
being the other side of the world.
Thank you. Thank you. So my curiosity now, based on what you have said, is are manifold. One is if you are traveling to Australia, the last time we spoke, I think you might have been over there.
Mhm.
Where are you inhabiting space? Where are you located at this moment?
I am in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and it's freezing cold.
As it is here in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where I recently moved back. So you are in, as I understand, you are in your place of origin. You are
No, I was born and raised in Germany. I am
okay.
German.
Hmm. Wow. Hmm. Okay. So the curiosity then, you were somewhere else in the world the last time we spoke.
I assume I was in Australia, so I already spent the last winter in Australia.
Hmm. Is that is that a normal migration for you? Usual? Have you done it before? Or is
Ooh.
it it's I then it's not never done before, right?
I I used to travel a lot. I studied development economics and then did a PhD in behavioral economics, but with a focus on developing countries. So I would spend regularly or once per year 3 months I was in Namibia, I was in Burkina Faso, then I lived in Vietnam for 3 years,
Mm,
and I studied
okay.
in France. So I used to go to other places for more less touristic reasons, but more with a goal or an ambition or project. That was
Mhm.
my way of traveling. I organized a lot of summer schools abroad when I was a student.
Hmm. So, and this world traveling and your background again being in academia for a while, for a long while. Then
Mhm.
these trips were related to your academic pursuits,
Yeah.
yes? And okay.
And funny enough, since I started my solo career. So in the beginning, it
Yeah.
I had one client for which I traveled within Europe, but that was different because it was always business travels. And otherwise, I was just so preoccupied to survive that the idea of traveling somewhere to explore was just out of sight. And then the pandemic hit. And when we were allowed to travel again, I I suddenly remembered that I used to be a social being who loved to travel and was adventurous. And I was searching in myself, where did this part of me go? So last year, Australia was also for myself to remind myself of who I was and
Hmm.
the search of finding this person again. It's
Hmm.
a very personal answer.
Yeah. The search for finding this person again. Hmm. How close are you to finding that person?
Luckily, I found, I wouldn't say that person, because I'm
Okay.
old now. Um, um, I found a social and adventurous person.
Hmm.
Um, and that was good.
Hmm.
And that's why I decided to just go. I think almost still being in Australia, it was clear that I have to go back
Hmm.
because it's good for my soul and it's good for myself. Um, so yeah,
Back to Amsterdam. Yes.
back to Australia.
Oh,
Oh,
back to Australia.
I'm
Okay.
now in Amsterdam. So my home
Right.
base is Amsterdam,
Okay.
and Australia is my winter refuge.
Oh my gosh. Mm. Mm. This idea of being social, being a social being, as it's now becoming, as we at the everybody we, not just you and me, but as a human, a whole on community, joining others in the shared space again. Uh, and I guess what I'm thinking here is the communities that we have created and the new relationships that we have created with each other, like, and everybody during the pandemic. Okay, so everything shut down. People were in meetups. People were doing workshops. Putting this tactile, tangible feeling,
Mm.
putting stuff on the walls, drawing, hearing sounds, feeling breath and this warmth, and then it all gets taken away. Um, and regardless of the narrative that each of us may have regarding why or how or feeling that's unjust or safe or not, the reality is that our the, the human race added this dimension to our sense of togetherness because being social creatures as we are, the connections that were created in the pandemic, they were different in kind, I think.
Mm.
And and I feel and I found that for the new people that I met in the pandemic. So I before the pandemic, my story before the pandemic, 2018, hugely social, right? I was reduced in force from IBM at the client I was at, but then I went in and I felt this freedom in being around people and meetups and doing and finding my purple, this spark, this stuff. And And then towards the end of 2018, I got a gig, and then as I think we talked before, I battled cancer, right? So then I went into my own uh how should we say it, my own bubble, my
Mm.
own thing. And so I
Journey.
kind of I yeah, I went underground before the whole world went underground. So that happened at the same time. And coming out, it was a long time. Came out in 20 mid 2021, towards the end of that, started to be with more people online in on glass and steel like this. And in 2022 started to create new relationships, and not the relationships that were in Charlotte, North Carolina, but relationships that were all over the world.
Mm.
And in the Netherlands, many in Germany, Vietnam, Denmark. I mean, all these places around the world. And it's so enriching, I mean, culturally, like in general, just being with people. But one thing that came to me is that this thing, it can be even more intimate and
Mm.
more close than if we were sitting at a bench outside a coffee table, or in, at a coffee shop, or what. Oh, let's meet for coffee. And then, oh, it's just
100%.
it's just the two. But in this, I am in my home. You're in your home. We're in this private place, and that sense of intimacy, this into me see that was happening.
Mm.
Um, I felt, just for me, and this is where the curiosity is coming, I felt changed by that. And it inspired within me this reverence for the relationship that we can have. I'm looking into you, looking into your eyes. And this moment, even though it's recorded and be put out there, this moment in this time will only ever be in this time.
Mm.
And this dance, this music that we have together is beautiful. It's
Mm.
precious. And um and then and I wonder, so that changed me. I'm curious how it changed you,
Mm.
going from the workshops you were doing and then into this mode. Uh, yeah. How did you change?
And yeah, first, thanks for sharing your story as well, and how, yeah, your own personal battle and the pandemic all came together. So there are different layers to your story. Um, and yes, I think in the real world, air quotes, we're never that close. If we would just meet for coffee, we wouldn't see each other so close as we now see each other on the screen. So I think for our brains and our systems, yes, it's very intimate.
Mm.
And it did indeed also change me, I think, from many perspectives. One is the level of interaction, the depth. And then I don't know what the cause really was, because with the before the pandemic, I was basically only working. I was in a co-working space. I was traveling a lot for the clients, um, and I was constantly working and not necessarily hanging out with other facilitators. The Well, once per week for my podcast.
Yeah.
It was because of the pandemic that I suddenly got into networks with other facilitators as we woke up like, okay, something is changing. We have no idea what. Everyone is losing their clients. What can we do? So suddenly there were all these meetups, all these calls amongst facilitators to figure out what to do and learn from and with each other. And that's where Never Done Before was born. Me
Yeah.
inviting my podcast guests to join me on basically an adventure because I had nothing else to do. So I asked them, Oh, what if we organize a festival?
Hmm.
And I think what has changed me was due to the interaction with facilitators, the quality of the exchange, the quality of questions, of listening, of holding space for each other was for me unprecedented. And to be surrounded by just that for 2 years,
Yeah.
I find it until today very difficult now to communicate with air quotes normal people,
Yeah.
even with my family, where it's not the norm to really listen instead of interrupting or to ask questions and to
Hmm.
hold space for each other, even in a normal conversation. Um,
Yeah.
so, so I think this indeed has changed me in my social circle. And the people that
Hmm.
or the reason why I'm going to Australia is that I met so many people during the pandemic and after in Australia that I think when I left, even when I left, my social network in Australia is larger than the one in Amsterdam, where I've been living for 3 years before the pandemic broke out.
Yeah. Oh. Hmm. So the curiosity goes to a few places. I did want to talk about Never Done Before in some specific ways. And as you mentioned, that was born in the pandemic, and that all of these projects, that so many projects generated from this community that you created, and out of I don't I would say out of necessity, but the world shutting down is a pretty hard design constraint,
Yes.
isn't it? Um, and it's fun to play within. Uh, and so we had all the facilitators, had this energy of, even though you can't be in the same room, being in a place together,
Mm.
and and changing you, um and building. And this is where I really wanted to go, because the festival has become this long arc that I don't it's I mean they last a year, right? I mean, it's a year-long cycle, as I understand it, correct?
Yes and no. So that how we started was, and I might start a little bit. I might stretch the answer a little bit, if
I,
I
I
may.
would I would I would like the whole narrative, the origin story of Never Done Before, because you tipped into it.
Yeah. So it started as an experiment of a festival. Me calling my podcast guests and say, "Let's host a festival. The only constraint is you have to do something you've never done before." And the reason why I did that was because I didn't have anything else to do, to be very honest. And every morning I woke up with such an anxiety that I spoke this mantra out to myself. Oh, I just pretend I won the lottery. What would I do if I had won the lottery? Of course, I would organize a festival.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have fun. And the festival was over and I was exhausted. And my therapist told me that she's observing some postnatal depressions. So I gave birth to this festival. And I was just, and then the new year started. And I'm like, you know what? I still don't have clients. The pandemic is still there. I still don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And the festival guests, so there were a handful that reached out and said, Miriam, how can we support you? So they became my wisdom circle,
Mm.
my advisory board.
Mm-hmm.
So that was beautiful. And with
Mm.
them, we then they persuaded me that we need to continue this. I've created the foundations of a community. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, I had very clear commitment issues. So I said, I don't want a community. You start it and then you can never end it. So what am I doing with the community if next year I don't want to do it anymore? So the idea, the hack that I came up with was, what if we already set the date for the next festival and we start selling the tickets today, and everyone who buys a ticket to the festival, they can enjoy whatever happens until then. So we start preparing the festival now. So we started hosting sessions for each other and having these conversations. And then, so it was basically a festival tickets.
Mm.
And after 2 years doing that, I woke up and I'm like, okay, maybe now I'm mature enough. And the community is mature enough to actually face it that I have built a community. And then I might just call it as such and then sell membership instead of festival tickets.
Mm. That is so upside down from what has happened here, because there's so much energy around, oh, I want to build a community. I want to build a community so I can bring people in and make something happen. Oh, and then eventually we'll charge a membership, and this will be this economic thing. But I mean, that's a forcing into the universe, right?
And it's so
And
difficult.
yeah, believe you me, is and being, I don't know, here, and just aside, I wish to be around people who want what I want, who know what I know, believe what I believe, all that kind of stuff. This real deep affiliation, and it's a struggle for me to get past the resistance and figuring out how to do that. But in your case, the world closes, and then you're like, well, I'm gonna do this, and then it happens because people want to hang out with you, and then the energy comes, and then more people want to hang out. I'm like, well, the community, us communing together, it happened naturally, and that's it. Also, the other thing is, so again, it's upside down from what's happening now. People wanting to monetize other people's attention and time, which feels weird. Feels weird, but again, it happened naturally for you. And you also mentioned the advisory board. That happened naturally. It seems out of that. Now, I also, in a little bit of the research, know that you have some experience of convening masterminds, like in the back. So again, that skill that you built into yourself allowed this to happen for you individually, and then for others who feel attracted to you, and then they have this energy that they want to be in this with you, and they share about it with other people, and then there's this additional energy that comes to the community, which is
And
it's
still
beautiful.
it's kind of ironic because when I started my business, the idea was to host master. Back then I didn't know what a mastermind was. I called it idea days. And then I read about masterminds. So I was like, oh, people call that masterminds. I'm going to do masterminds. And I experimented so much with the concept of masterminds. And this is what I wanted to do. And I hosted a few masterminds. Yes, I charged good money for the masterminds. And it was always draining to sell these. And I wanted it so much, but it was always difficult. So I gave it up. I'm not hosting masterminds anymore. Now we call it the Brain Trust. We have monthly Brain Trust sessions within the community. And that's great. And it's interesting how I have grown through the community, with the community, and vice versa. So the entire charging and monetizing community, that's this money mindset that I had to grow at first. who am I to charge for that? How do we do? We are a global community, and people started reaching out from the global south saying, I want to be part of your community, but I don't have money. You claim to be global and inclusive. Why don't you include me? I was like, they've got a point.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to mean that it has to be for free. So now we have this purchasing power adjusted rate where we have discounts up to 75%. If someone joins us from Africa, they get a 75% discount. And it took us 3 years to come up with that concept.
Yeah.
But now we are truly inclusive. Yeah. And last thing that I mentioned in the very beginning, and I think that's also last year I was starting to look aside. I realized that maybe I get a little bit bored. We've done that before. So it was another cycle. We gave the community more freedom. They want to do more sessions. We have done the festival in different ways. We started with a testival to testing the festival. And
a testival. Okay. I thought you said test eval. No, okay, testival. All right.
festival, I now call it Le Testival because in the beginning I called it the Testival, and then people started sending me pictures of cat testicles.
Oh God.
Yes. So
Okay.
Testival.
All right. Testival.
Yes. So last year I kind of looking back here, maybe I was losing a little bit of interest. So the spark wasn't there. And it had a direct impact on the community. And we got a wake-up call from 2 courageous new members in September. We're like, we just joined. Where is everyone? Is this what we signed up for? And we faced it. So Anushka, my community facilitator, and I, we started to have temperature check sessions. We had calls with members who continued, members who left, and we redesigned the entire thing. And this year I'm committed. I only collaborate with community members this year. I focus on large clients, multinationals who need workshops and trainings in different languages in different countries and time zones so that I can serve through the community to get gigs into the community. And that's where all my attention goes.
And this is the other, are you traveling for those workshops as part of your business, or are you primarily remote?
It's all online. So the focus is online. We're global. So everything continues to happen online.
And the community within the community, you just mentioned there's a kind of a marketplace feel for there's sharing, there's an opportunity here, there's a need here that we need X kind of facilitator. Wow.
Yeah.
That was one of the questions. Again, what is it like to be an online facilitator now, and professional, full time? And I'm assuming your business, the workshops work business, is to be an online facilitator. That's your gig, right?
Yeah. Yes. And so I changed my title into facilitation evangelist. I made that up and then asked ChatGPT for a definition. It gave me a definition that made sense, and I'm like, okay, I run with that. Now I'm a facilitation evangelist. Because because what I actually do most of the time is I build a community and I build a facilitation agency. So we have clients, they need workshops or trainings. We do a lot of training in psychological safety, for instance. They call me and say, okay, we need now a workshop in Thai in 6 weeks. Can you do that? Like, sure. So, and since we have the community, we can cover almost every language.
Wow.
And we are sharing the same mindset around facilitation. We subscribe to the same basic principles. We know we see each other facilitate because we host sessions for each other.
Mm,
So it's so much easier to convey a certain quality level, um, and to assess the facilitators that I send on projects.
mm,
So yes, I still do facilitate, and I'm handpicking my clients and gigs that I serve personally.
mm. That's I the ideal kind of freelancer situation, right?
Yeah,
That I think I imagine you have a familiarity with Seth Godin and Seth's
yeah,
work, yeah, and that seems like a theme to be able to be in a place where you can work with people who love what you do and you love what you do with them.
yeah.
Um, it, some would say that's a luxury, but I would say it's a blessing, right? Mm. So that's again how Never Done Before was born and emerging from with the lockdowns releasing in a certain way. Now there's another change, right? And there's more folks going back to work. There's that, and then in May of last year, then kaboom, then ChatGPT happens, and everybody freaks out and are still freaking out, and that
I
the
do.
machines are going to take over with all the deep fakes and that stuff. You can make Frank Sinatra rap. There's the virtual Drake, it sings better than the real Drake, and that it creates this sense of what does authenticity now
Mm,
value? Well, what is our okay, what is the job that we have to do as human beings? Again, I'm talking about not just the we, the you and me, that the we word is a tough one, but okay, what does it now mean to be distinct from the growing capabilities of these artificial intelligences and these
mm,
the the generative machines that can pass the Turing test, that
mm,
people don't know whether some people don't know whether they're talking to a machine or not, or seeing a machine. um so this is the world that is now. So um how how do you approach this challenge to be more human in this rising age of artificiality? What's
mm.
how do you feel about that?
To be very honest, I've never seen ChatGPT or AI as a competition for my profession or for what I do. Um, I see it as a fantastic collaborator. I love collaborating with ChatGPT. It makes my life so
Mm,
much easier.
mm,
Um, and I believe that if you don't know anything, it is a big risk to try to use AI to do the work for you,
yeah.
because you do need to know what you're prompting for.
Right.
And you do need to distinguish, okay, what is true, what is made up, what
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, it's getting better and better. And I think by the end of next year,
Mm,
it will be so much better already.
mm,
And still, let's not forget that it's pulling information out of what has been said and what has been
mm.
done before.
I was
Um,
going to say the same thing. Yes.
so, um, and I think that's brilliant because I have access to everything that has been done before so that I can think of what hasn't been done before. And that's where the fun is. And I think
Mm,
it, so what I had this one incident, and I like to bring up this example where I realized how much I can learn from ChatGPT about communication. So I received an email from a client, and I got really furious. And
Okay.
you might know this desire to just reply and say everything you want to say. So I did that. I wrote this email with everything that I really wanted to say, unfiltered, and I felt this deep satisfaction. And then instead of sending it, I put it into ChatGPT with a request to rephrase it so that it sounds professional and warm and constructive. So I got an email back. I'm like, that's great. And I said, please keep in mind that the person I'm sending it to is Asian, and I don't want them to feel that they would lose face. So I got another iteration, and I sent this second iteration without changing a single word. And the reply was like, Myriam, thank you so much for making this very important point. Absolutely, I agree. Let's do that. How shall we jump on a call to discuss the rest?
Ooh.
So I think the opportunity for me to be my full human kind of angry self, which is not constructive, and still it's there. And having a partner to help me to rephrase, not to change the content. The content was the same, but to rephrase it in a way so that the other person would actually hear what I have to say. Amazing.
And in that adventure, I would imagine you learned some things too to be able to improve that next iteration for yourself that pops out of your brain as something that has never been done before. Wow. We'll give hope to those out there in the world who think that ChatGPT is going to take their jobs.
Yeah. And then we have always said that. 5 years ago, who would have thought that someone can earn an income from playing video games in public, and that others would earn an income on live reporting on people playing video games against each other in public, right? There are always new jobs that we cannot even imagine, and even ChatGPT cannot imagine what jobs will emerge.
I can predict based on what has happened before.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So a partner, a collaboration partner, a virtual collaboration partner.
What is your relationship to ChatGPT or to AI?
It has been, I've been reluctant. I think I've been just saying, I'm going to be as human as I can be, as authentic as I can be, just being in the moment, making the mistakes that I believe I can only make because I am me and you are you, and this is the only moment we will have together in this time, and yeah, all that kind of stuff I was talking about before. Um, I have played with it just a little bit, and it's impressive. Even the GPT-3 that came out in May. I don't know. Are you using GPT-4 or okay? Yeah. Mm. And yeah, so I'm not afraid of it, uh, but I'm trying to figure out how to distinguish the me out of it. The be how purple can I be in comparison to the black and white of the digital being that is there. So,
and it's actually interesting because I think you would be surprised how much more layers of purple you could find, and then see which ones do you want to wear, which ones do you want to try out, and which ones do you just want to dismiss. What I am indeed a little bit afraid is too much of a word, but I am aware that it's so easy to get lazy
Yeah.
and to just rely on that. And then um, I was I was asked to write a contribution, short article. So I just wrote my thoughts unfiltered without grammar and all of that. And I was like, okay, let's see what here are all my thoughts, everything that needs to be in the article. Write me an article. And then I read it. And I'm like, it's there are too many superlatives. It's just too much on the stuff that looks shiny, but the things between the lines where I thought, okay, this is really important,
Mhm.
these were kind of canceled out. And I think that's what makes us human. That makes what a good facilitator is to
Mhm.
distinguish what is relevant from what is irrelevant and to pay attention
Mhm.
to the quickly overlooked details that make a big difference. And for that, you need experience, you need to understand the context, you need intuition. And I think it will take a few years if AI is able to really go there.
Mm. A nuanced can you artificialize, like can you automate nuance, right? Can you is
Yeah.
that even possible? Um, this is the pretend yeah, so I what I learned to do pretend you are someone who is nuanced, all right?
Yes.
And then searches the planet and the Library of Alexandria of the digital world. And oh, this is what nuance is. I heard about nuance, yeah.
And then
Mm,
you get a Kafkaesque email.
yeah. The and again, this is one thing I've noticed. I see a lot more images that are
Mm.
obviously AI
Yeah.
generated, and and I just think that's just don't put an image in there. Because for me, it's like I mean, it's obviously fake. I mean, I
What
would
is
rather,
fake? Or
well,
maybe it's very original.
it's again, I if there is an assumption about the this new form of life, right? So
Hmm.
this is this uh it's a being that was birthed into the universe that can speak based on what existed before. It's just not my taste. I would rather see someone's messiness, you know,
Mm.
the wabi sabi of mistakes and just draw. If you're gonna have an image, maybe you just draw it. But I don't know. Maybe that makes me bigoted against
Mm. Yeah.
the DALL-E or Mid-Journey or whatever the tool is. But it just
And
I don't know.
I
And
mm,
I've seen some people modifying their own profile picture on LinkedIn. It's like that is spooky. That's spooky to me.
it
That
is spooky. And it's also spooky on how good some of these AI replicas of your own headshot are. The
mm,
interesting thing is, so yeah, I get it. When you see if someone produces their own image, um,
hmm
then you assume that they paid all these details that you can find. There's a thought behind it, there's a connection, there's
hmm
creativity. And what I find so funny about AI generated images, first sight, they look amazing. And
hmm
then you zoom in and you look at the details and like, this doesn't make sense.
Their fingers you
Yeah, and then it's this
2 feet
Escher.
long.
It's like, yeah, like Escher stairs, right?
Yeah.
But not on
Yeah.
purpose and not with
hmm
mathematics.
Yeah.
At the same time, I wanted to create a visual for a presentation, and I had a very clear idea on what I wanted to. No, first I didn't have any idea. So I
Yeah.
said, okay, if you translate this model into a visual, how would it look like?
Mhm.
And I was like, huh, this is very interesting. It doesn't make any sense what you've produced here, but
Mhm.
the approach is very interesting, and I wouldn't have thought about that. And as I looked at it, then I knew exactly what I wanted.
Mm.
And I spent 3 hours on trying to prompt this machine to give me exactly what I wanted. And after 3 hours, I'm like, you know what? I use good old icons. And I
Mm.
ended up with 3 icons, black and white,
Mhm.
from the noun project.
So, and this
Yeah.
has me thinking. So, the, putting in those prompts to because ChatGPT knows more than you know, and
Yeah.
the machines will always know more than we know, and will always, from henceforth, will either now or eventually be able to do it faster and with greater precision. So if you project that into the future, right? Okay. So if how might we, and again, you give a great example of it. So okay, so machine do this woof, and take it to exponential. Now bring it back to me so I can create what has never been created. Um, and that distinction, I think, between a bespoke artifact created by a human being, um, that distinction and distinguishing that will become more and more valuable, and because it is more and more rare, and more, again, this human, more human. And that's not to say to be exclusive of our new baby AI generative, this little this baby that's growing quickly into, a teenager that can now speak and say more. How do we midwife
Mm.
that digital child, and how do we be good parents to it and not let he, she, they, these, or them go to the dark side?
Mm.
how do we become the light to potential darkness? How do we be that beacon for others? Yeah, we spirit beings of carbon and spirit, versus, silicon and
Mm.
electricity. You know, um,
Can I don't think that we can, and right? That we can prevent it from as much as we cannot prevent any human to go to the dark sides. The is our dark sides that also inspire us and make us human.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I think the atomic bomb is one of the examples, right?
yeah,
There are always two sides to everything. I think we have to be more mindful of how much we share with ChatGPT, um, or on the internet, how much we share of us.
yeah, mm,
Um, because I think the topic of identity theft
yeah,
or spying of
mm,
cyber criminality, I think it's going to be interesting.
yeah. The human darkness leveraging the infinitely exponential capabilities of our silicon brethren, our silicon children. Mm. I need to chew on that one a second. Mm. I was thinking a little bit about how to prompt, what is after what has never been done before,
Mm.
never done before. And I'm still struggling with with three words to what comes after what has never been done before.
Mm.
Um, I just keep doing what you're doing, you know. Uh, And and you mentioned that between the first and second cycles, festivals, or that you found yourself bored, right, and uninspired a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I this brings me back to what I wanted to ask about the community. So now that the doors have been opened, many of the online communities are shrinking. And what is I I think what is what is the alluring invitation to why
Mm.
would someone now that design constraint has been released, what is the attraction
Mm.
to now uh, come as a global community? I mean, you have a mature community now. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, for if you if you were going to create never done before today,
Hmm.
would you do it?
I think I didn't want to create a community back then. I don't think that I would want to create a community
You would,
today.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and maybe this was my competitive advantage that I don't like communities. I'm not part of any communities. I've never been part of a community. So I am building this or curating something where I would enjoy hanging out, given that I get bored very quickly.
It's the Groucho
Um,
Marx effect, right? I don't want to be in any group that would have me as a member. So, hmm.
um, and then, so I think the beauty. So why are many of the online communities shrinking? I
Yeah.
think because they didn't add more value than just, oh, come and hang out with people.
Mhm.
And I think what for us is this space where we can experiment with ideas and
Mhm.
find inspiration from each other in a safe environment.
Mhm.
Um, we, I think online facilitation, although many go back to the physical space, online facilitation is here to stay
Yeah.
for budget reasons, for ecological reasons. It is, and
Mhm.
I believe that there are many there are many contexts where, as you described in the very beginning, it's actually easier to connect, to go deeper, faster. It's more democratic because everyone has the same likelihood to be in a conversation with everyone else. The
Mhm.
Zoom gods decide
Yeah.
who the CEO will talk to next. I think
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Nobody will listen to your conversations in a breakout room. So I think these are all artifacts that we cannot replicate in the physical space.
Mhm.
So, assuming that online facilitation is here to stay,
Mhm.
we want to practice.
Yeah.
So, we do need online facilitation. So, that's one, maybe the easiest. Second, it's so easy to stay in our bubble and to only know what we have learned, what the people around us do, that we meet. To
Mhm.
learn from Ola Olu, who's our member from Nigeria,
Mhm.
who didn't grow up with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, for instance.
Okay.
Weird example, but we had this
Yeah.
one workshop where we worked with cartoons. And then he is bringing in a perspective that is so out of my personal context and anything that I would have thought of. And it's incredibly inspiring. The
Mm.
sessions he designs are always very different. Is it something
Mm.
that I would necessarily replicate? Maybe not.
Mm.
And I do get lots of inspiration from it. And I think
Ooh.
to have this cultural diversity in a community, so we are 120 members, we we will not grow beyond 150. So that's the restriction.
Hmm.
because within 150 we know each other. We
Yeah.
we all have enough airtime. The workshops don't get incredibly big. Usually we're about 15 people in a workshop.
Hmm.
So it's very intimate.
And these are workshops that are conducted within the community
Yeah.
that they are not offered publicly. So
Yeah.
uh, this you're kind of answering the question I was going to ask anyway. There's a sense of value. What is the value proposition for
Mm,
becoming a member?
mm,
And as a proprietor of this space, you and your team, you have to decide what am I going to price that at?
mm,
And for again, based on the purchasing power, which is such a wonderful idea. Um, that's me personally. I have to get where you are, right? To be able to say this this Wheelo space, we'll talk about that. This Wheelo space is worth 100,000, 100, whatever price, what is it worth to come
mm,
here and be with the people who are here and affiliate and do what it is we do and have that sense of purpose. And that emerged for Never Done Before. Yeah. Um, and for those of us who aren't quite there yet, we have a desire to be, it's not so much, oh, I want a community. I want to be with people who get me and I want to be there for them. And this idea of the Purple Squirrel Cafe, right?
mhm,
It's not easy being somebody who's assembled their career or life or whatever in a certain way. It's easy to feel like a misfit,
mhm.
right?
Oh, we're a community of misfits, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And
Totally.
that's beautiful. And I think many facilitators actually feel a little bit as misfits or have been misfits in the past.
Yeah.
I think that brings us together.
Calling all misfits, calling all misfits.
Yeah. And yeah, the pricing, I think one thing that I've learned is it's not about the price.
Yeah.
Um, I realized that it was, for me in my experience, it was more difficult to sell tickets for 35 euros than for 650.
Yeah.
Um, and when I realized that, I was like, okay, so it's not about the price.
Yeah.
Um, and we have experimented so much. And at the beginning, I invited my podcast guests for free until I dared to think, okay, so why would they join for free? So now we have a value proposition. Um,
Mm, yeah.
if they don't find value to want to pay for, then they won't show up in the first place. And then to have someone just being a counted member to talk about, but not
Mm,
being active, don't need that.
mm,
So also trusting that people are willing to pay a price.
mm,
And that's actually something that I learned from my many experiments with masterminds.
yeah.
A mastermind, you join a mastermind because you get the value from accessing the brain and experience of the people around the table.
Mhm.
If you don't charge for this table, you will attract the people who don't maybe have who have more time than money. Let's put it like this.
Yeah.
But who you really want to attract are the people who have more money than time because they
Mm,
need the shortcut to access all these brains around the people in an hour or less.
mm, yeah.
So how can you get to people who have more money than time? Or on the
Mm,
other hand, target these people who have more time than money, but then you have to offer a very low price and to go for the masses.
mm, yeah. Mm. And well, maybe there, and I'm sure I know there are people who would desire to have that sense of mass success, right? If
Mm.
to be for everybody and think that that's the way to go. And not going to judge that necessarily, but um,
Yeah. And I think a community, if a community, and that's, isn't it funny? It's such an irony. A community by definition cannot be for everyone. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a community.
exactly. What are the
Right?
boundaries of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think to create a community, you must be very clear on who it's not for. And I think this was for me the most painful part.
Yeah.
Who is it that we don't want to have in the community? And
Hmm.
then you get closer to the
Yeah.
source.
This is, you know, that hits a hot button for me because I have often said there, you are familiar with the Agile community, right? I don't think that exists. I don't
Mm,
think there is an Agile community because what are the boundaries of the Agile community? You know,
mm,
I don't know. I mean, there are communities of Scrum Masters, I guess, but that for me to say that word, the Agile community, who exactly is that? Who creates the boundaries, right?
mm.
Who has the authority to create the boundaries and say, no, nope, you can't come, or or what? So maybe that's just my concept of community, but the idea of Dan Mezek helped me understand this better. So there's an idea of there's the boundary attracts and it repels, right? There is
Mhm.
attraction and repulsion. That what is the energy that causes someone to hop the boundary,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if there's no boundary, it doesn't. It has
True.
less. There's no energy. There's no juice to
Yeah.
it. So
And I think this also brings us to the shrinking communities. I think an interesting boundary is money.
yeah,
So by charging a price, you're basically encouraging someone to take a decision, yes or no. Am I in
mhm,
or am I out? And when they're in, then they they're willing to commit because they paid a price for that.
yeah. Just like coaching,
Yes.
like
Yes.
anything.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm curious. May I share curiosity? Unless I don't want to interrupt your flow of curiosity.
No, 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 please. I was, yeah,
Because you mentioned your Velo community.
exactly where I was gonna go.
Okay, perfect.
I don't, I have built one. I have a space, and yet I'm
Is
messing.
it
I'm trying to.
purple?
No, they don't have purple yet.
Oh,
I haven't gone with the custom when I get Cliff Pollen, Cliff, if you were watching
hello.
this. Um, I haven't done the custom design. I have seen yours, and it is beautiful, and I love it. It's a place I want to go, right? Um, so yes, I have a space. I don't I don't yet know who I want to invite other than the Misfits. And how do you do that? So yes, I'm
Misfits of what?
exactly. You know, what is a purple squirrel? What does that mean? And who are the purple squirrels out there? And is that who I want this place to be for? Um, and if who comes, being who comes are the right people, and what experience do I wish for them? How do I want to serve them? How do I want to give my love to them?
Mm,
Right. And this to be a loving place and a caring place. That's and this definition of love that I borrowed from Harrison Owen's work is that love is a combination, can be termed a combination of acceptance and challenge. Right? I
mm.
accept you unconditionally. And so what are you going to do? Right. So I'm challenging you with, again, whatever context is there. Uh, so yeah, I'm struggling with the love. And when you joined, how good does that experience need to be for you to want to share it with others? and
Mm.
invite others into it, and how what is the amount of growth. So um yeah, I have a space, and I want to have an experience in it, and I'm still haven't figured out the other side of it. The empathy,
Mm. Mhm.
there's that this connection is about empathy, that
Mm.
can I put myself in your shoes to understand what it is that you wish to have and the kind of experience that you wish to have. So
No,
because it's not all about me.
and maybe it is. So, so my girlfriend, she always says, at the end of the day, we all try to solve our own problems, and we build a business around that. And
Mm.
initially, I didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
And the closer I look, the more I see it everywhere. So I get bored
Mm.
very easily. I went to conferences and
Mm.
was like underwhelmed. So I started NDB. I
Hmm.
don't like communities, but I do like the social aspects and hang out with really cool people.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
feeling lonely, uninspired. So I think if we can only attract those who feel attracted to us
Yeah.
if we are actually also true to ourselves, what it is that we desire, and go and run with it and try to solve that, and trust that
Mm.
in the world there are people who long for the same thing.
Yeah. People who know what I know, who believe what I believe, and want what I want. Right.
Yeah,
That's
that
that's
when you share what you're missing in this world and why you got this Velo space, say, hell yeah, me too.
yeah. So we low outside of our own spaces, right? And this is a little bit of a kind of a sharp left turn about tools. And it's easy to get seduced by a great tool, right? We love this. For me, I love this tool, and I want it. I want it to grow because I love, yeah, Cliff and the folks who create it, and their spirit and their desire to give, and like so I'm committed to the tool. But what the challenge, I think, is there's a hop to get there. You can't just use it for one meeting at a time. There has to be, at least my
You
interpretation of
could,
it.
but it's not there for that. It's yeah.
It's not what it's there to
It's
be a persistent place, right?
yeah.
A place where you go and you get that feeling
A
of
community
being,
garden, a co-working
yes,
space, an event
yeah.
space, an open office space. Yeah.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
that's, yeah, it's not about going somewhere where you can record the conversations and share them or produce or something. Yeah, that's you go out to some other stage to do that, right? So the cafe is like, so we have tables there. There's one-on-one tables. There's a couple rooms. There's a room where we can have a gathering there, and there's a room that we can have 10 people here, and that stuff, and that it's just the use case for that is persistent, and to be available like like a place, right? This that we have the Here's the community garden. You want to come to the community garden on this date. It'll be a place that's familiar. It'll be a place where you see people and some, maybe some people you don't, who have joined. And that's what you used to get at Starbucks, or this because they became this third place. And the idea of this thing that I want to do, it came out of wanting to have a fourth place that was high resolution, that had a boundary, that was this high signal to noise ratio, because sometimes you get people who are noisy and just they bring in an energy you don't want, or whatever it is, like we talked about the boundary. So high resolution, that a tool that can support more than what Zoom can do. I mean, this is the vision of it, and that's worth something. Even when we can go somewhere and have infinite resolution with people, that there's a if I can be with someone who's in the Netherlands and have a a conversation with less delay, that we can kind of talk over each other and have this conversation. I don't have to wait 3 seconds for you to respond, and then we have that
Mhm.
Zoom delay and that kind of stuff. And then to be able to to hear you, to hear the silence and hear what may be happening, to feel as if I am in as close to a real place as I can be, and with the advantage of universality,
Mm.
right? And that's the pursuit. And you know, I wish, hey Cliff, I wish we had that level of resolution now. But it's not there yet, but um yeah, this persistence like you have with Never Done Before. And I think that commitment creates the energy, and beauty will come out of that. And you've proven that to be true. So,
Mm. Yeah. And I think
mm.
most people just give up too early. I
Mm.
have subsidized Never. I didn't earn money from Never Done Before the first 2 years. I subsidized it with other clients, with other gigs,
Mm.
because I knew that it's worth it. That was my baby. Um, yeah.
It's that's kind of a weird passion project to have, a project that you didn't kind of want in the beginning. Like, I don't want a community,
Mhm.
but
Still
but
funded.
but you still found it, and you still nurtured it, and helped it grow and be sustainable at this, again, that Dunbar number, the 150 that you had there. And that's mm, that's um admirable, and honorable, and hopefully we'll be growing to many communities where, maybe a reluctant community that will drive people. Maybe there'll be some more reluctant ones. Um, wow. Hmm. So where's your curiosity now?
Mm. Mm. I feel complete.
As do I. Hmm.
And I'm very grateful um, that so your curiosity and the way how you guide the conversation is very caring. Um, and it feels very natural to just speak without filter and to join you along this path. And although in the beginning it felt maybe a little bit um, mm, daring to be in the spotlight and to receive all this curiosity. And it's a gift. It's a real gift to receive that and to just allow you to guide me. Um, yeah, and I learned a few things for myself today, which is a great thing.
This is
Thank you.
you're you're welcome, and I thank you for the precious gift of you being here, and the time and attention. To those of you who might be watching this, I hope you out there, um, have received some of the love that was here in our circle.